Welcome to this new background. Come in. This is a portion of my workshop. As I said, a new background. And we're going to do new things here. I think we should meet here from time to time. And I can show you things I do. It's going to be fun. And I hope you enjoy it. Something a little bit different. I'm not sure how many relaxation sessions occur in a garage, in a workshop. In a shed you'll see this is mainly my woodworking section. You'll see my array of spanners, which are predominantly, of course, mechanical tools, but they display quite nicely and are in easy reach if I put them on the shadow board at the back here. They range in sizes, quite a comprehensive range. That's why I bought these ones, even though they're not of the highest quality. They certainly are of one of the highest ranges of size that I've come across. All the way from 6mm here in 1mm increments up to 14, and then continuing from 15. There are no missing numbers, which is I consider to be rare, but no missing numbers all the way up to 32mm, and at the price of, I think it's something like $90. As I said, not high quality, but high enough for what I do. You know, I home handyman mechanic type of thing, although I get into quite some serious stuff on the old Land Cruiser. The quality of these is perfectly adequate. If I need a higher quality tool, I do have a small socket set of Stahlwille, if you want to pronounce it as the Germans do, which is a very high quality steel. But I really need to call upon that because none of these have actually failed me. So that's my small spanner set. I have a wonderful joiner's hammer that a friend of mine actually made. I didn't make this one. This is made from some quite exotic timbers. In the middle here we have Purple Heart, and you know, I really can't remember what's on the outsides, but as you can see, super smooth. If I move it around, the light may catch it, and you'll see the Purple Heart is actually purple, hence the name. And beautifully grained handle. My friend is from over east, and he has access to different timbers than what I have here, so I'm not familiar with them all, and I don't remember, but he gave me that as a Christmas present a couple of years ago. It's really quite beautiful. And here I have what's called a Japanese pull saw. It's got, as you can see, a coarsely serrated edge on this side and a finely serrated edge on this side, with a detachable when you're strong enough. Never mind, I'm not strong enough. the blade detaches for replacement, so you can keep the handle. And what the reason for the coarse and the fine blade is the coarse blade is for when you want to cut along the grain. And let me show you what I mean with a piece of this cypress pine, which I showed you a few meetings ago, to cut along the grain. So you'll see on here that the grain travels in this direction as though the tree has grown upward. So that's called along the grain, and perpendicularly opposing that would be called across the grain. And so the coarse teeth are for when you want to cut this way, and it just makes it much faster. But that's less effective when you're cutting across the grain, because it's a bit too coarse, so they have the fine teeth for cutting across the grain. The other significant difference with the Japanese pull saw is in the name. It's that with Western saws you push to cut. Let me show you an example of that. So this is a Western saw, and you'll see that the teeth actually face in the opposite direction. They face forward because when you use the Western saw, you push to cut. With the Japanese saw, you pull to cut. It's supposed to give a more accurate cut and faster, but I think the main thing is because you're pulling and not pushing on the blade is able to be much thinner for rigidity, whereas because you're pushing, the forces along the blade mean that this steel has to be thicker, and therefore it removes more of the wood, which is, if you're going to count it in very small increments, it is more effort, more energy required to cut with a Western saw than it is to cut with a Japanese pull saw. So my brother-in-law gave me that for my birthday a number of years ago. It's quite nice. I think the neighbours are out. You can probably hear them. They're out and about. It's about that time of day when people are starting to become active, and I apologise for that if it's a little bit disturbing, but I think it's fine just to have a nice background ambient noise, and the birds are obviously preferable. But what can you do? Most of us have neighbours within earshot. I would love to live somewhere on multiple large acreage, but we don't all have that option, unfortunately. So I'm just going to put this up here. I'm just going to put this saw back in its little spot here, and we'll move on to showing you the next, what we came here for, what we're actually doing today. This mug, incidentally, I've had this mug for 7 years. I bought this in Canada. It's my favourite mug. I don't have favourite many things, but I do have a favourite mug, and this is my favourite mug. I bought this from a store over there called Canadian Tire. If anybody's been to Canada, you'll know Canadian Tire. West Coast, of course. Beautiful mug, nice earthy colours, mixed in with a little bit of matte colour. show you today what we're going to be doing today. Actually, is I found this piece of wood. It's not particularly thick, but it's come about. I found it in the garden, really, when I was cleaning everything up from the previous owners, and I thought, oh, if I can clean that up nicely, that's a really nice, a really good looking thing to hang on the wall, actually. So what I'm going to try and do today, let's just give it a little clean and see what happens. Go over to my toolbox over here. And I was thinking I would start with a stiff bristle brush and just give it a little bit of see if I can get some of this stuff out here. Yeah, it's going to make a little bit of a mess. I'm just going to do a little test patch, say along here. Maybe I'll then get, well, I've got a couple of options here, so maybe I'll bring them both out. I have a, that one's a little dirty. Do I have a clean one? Yes, I've got a fresh clean one. I think I've used that one on an oily part somewhere. Both of those, in fact. Here's some nice fresh ones, so I don't get oil and grease into the timber there. So what I've got here is a brass bristled toothbrush type of thing, and a nylon bristled brush, which actually is it's a little softer. So let's start with the softer one and see how we go here. I'll try in one direction first. Looks like it's broken down a little bit. Maybe had some mosses or lichen or something growing on it at some stage. But when you do this, you kind of want to go along the grain, not across the grain. I want to go with the grain. Just get a lot of that dirt out of there. Try the slightly stiffer bristle and see what that does for us. Yeah, that one makes a little shorter work of it. Get into these little knotted areas. And then brush it off with this. That's a softer one. Yeah, that's the way to go. You can go in both directions, so anything that's caught in the grain can kind of be picked out whichever way the grain might be standing up. You can already see what kind of a difference that is making. compared to what we have up here higher, that's full of dirt and grit, and this is coming out as a nice clean rustic finish. And I just wonder if, for interest's sake, if I was to put a little bit of well, how about some beeswax, just as a something to do here. Well, that's a rather large piece of rag, but what I have here, you've always, in a workshop, you've always got to have your bag of rags, nice clean rags that you can work with. And what I'm going to do here is actually, I love this beeswax. It's for restoring timber furniture, reviving and polishing, it says, but it's food safe, which is really nice. It means I can use it on chopping boards or knife blocks or any of those kind of things. But what I like most about it is it doesn't smell like wax, it smells like honey, which is, well, I think most people, especially, I'm not Pooh Bear, but I'm a big fan of honey. Now, so if I was to take the wax, beeswax, and just apply it a little bit to a spot there. Really just rub it in. You can see almost straight away the beauty that can be pulled out of this piece of wood here. Okay. So, right, you just let it soak in because the wood is dry, so it'll soak in whatever you put on there, whether it's a polyester wipe on finish or you're varnishing it or anything like that. The wood will really soak that in. So in a lot of cases you need multiple layers. That's why, super dry, if you've got a piece of wood and you do run your rag of whatever you're putting on over it, you'll notice that in some areas it dries out really quickly, in other areas it sits on the surface. And that's the different density of wood, the different moisture content of the wood, and its ability to soak in or not. Now this is soaked most of it in. You can really see the matte. It's a matte finish, the beeswax. Oh, it smells good. And you see how it turned some dry looking old wood that you might have found in your garden, or as in this case it did, and it turns it into a finished product looking type of area. I'll use this finger, not this finger, that'd just be rude otherwise, wouldn't it? And you can imagine that over the whole piece. It's going to look really beautiful on the wall. And I'm looking forward to spending a good hour or two scrubbing that up and making a mess in my workshop. But I'll continue that in my own time. I'm not going to make can't expect you to sit here for 2 hours and watch me do that. But what I do want to show you is, and there's a story attached to it. Of course, there's always a story attached to it. So I'm renovating doing a renovation extension on a house, which I mentioned to you in our previous meeting, is out on this fishing bay community, and I was deconstructing the roof, one section of the roof of the old house, and I found this really nice piece of wood used as a rafter. And since we're kind of we need to bolster up the ceiling. It doesn't meet the building specifications of today, because it's a 1960s, at least 1960s, it could even be older, house. So they've just kind of, a lot of people have just built it themselves, or, you know, there's no council regulation, or there is council regulations, but I don't think anybody really took heed. And so, because we're having to replace a lot of the rafters anyway, what I thought I'd do is take this piece and just, instead of going on their firewood pile, it's unbelievable, you know, how much Jarrah gets burnt over here, and it's so precious in heaps of other places. Yeah, so I rescued this one from the fire pile. Let's have a look at this. It's an absolutely exquisite piece it's a little heavy. Absolutely exquisite piece of Jarrah. Look at this. I'll bring it in here so you can see it. Look at that. You can see, now that I'm using a better camera, you can probably see a whole lot more detail in this, and it's absolutely unbelievable. So what this is a sorry, I'll just put it over here. That is a piece which we've also talked about in another meeting that we had. It's a piece of Jarrah, but it's a burl. It's cut out of a burl. It must have been a really large burl, 2 meters or more in height. But you remember this piece that I showed you in a previous meeting, the Jarrah burl. So it's damage to a tree, where when a tree's been damaged and it builds like repairs its wound, it can the grain becomes super wavy and with heaps of detail in it and whatnot. So you'll see this one here, which is very similar. If I was to get that beeswax again, I've lost the spot. I just want to highlight what this is like here. Just a little bit of the beeswax on there. I'm going to rub that on. And you can see there, if I hold it in the right spot, you can see the grain in the burl, right? And that's a really tight burl, and it doesn't have many flaws in it. This one, this rafter, this X-rafter, now exquisite art piece to be, has a lot of flaws and a lot of holes, which is just great. You know, I can fill that with clear resin or blue resins, black resins. You can do all sorts of things with that, but it's a piece that you would use as a feature in another piece, in a larger piece, or you could use this on its own to really create things, and it goes as far as imagination can go as to what you could do with this. That is after you pull the nails out and clean the edges out. But really, this is the side that's caught me. Oh, fantastic. And if I didn't rescue it, it would have spent another 50 years or 70 years or however long it's been there. It would have just gone back in the roof, and no one would have found it until they were demolishing the house, probably. I've never really seen a piece of Jarrah like that before, so it would be a little bit of a shame if I was to ignore it and let it go. But yeah, I've got a bit of work to do, it seems, on this lovely bit. So, you know, if you want to get it done faster and you're not worried about noise, you can go and get a drill and get one of these sets that have wire wheels. I'll just cover that name there. Get one of these sets that have the wire wheel, and you could probably put that into your drill and you could wire wheel it. Sometimes it's just nice doing things by hand without the assistance of machinery, you know. It's just more peaceful, and it's nice to move the muscles and vary the amount of pressure. All the options come to you. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed our quick little workshop session. We'll be doing more of these, don't worry. I've got a lot of things which I can show you, and if I was to look around, we can certainly do. I would love to show you things like sharpening my chisel. I've got a Japanese chisel, which is my little pride and joy. I've got a couple of them, but my pride and joy, and sometimes I do need to sharpen them. Obviously, because you need to maintain your tools. But yeah, I can show you how I do that, and I've got little art pieces that I've made and will be continuing to make in the future using resin and wood, and which is, it's really cool, really interesting. And maybe if you're into it, I can even show you some car repair stuff. We might be able to find a way to make that relaxing. Not quite sure how to do that. It's hard for me to stay relaxed when I'm doing car repairs, but there are some very therapeutic things that occur when you're doing that work. You've just got to be methodical, I suppose. But yeah, that'd be interesting, actually. That'd be an interesting meeting, wouldn't it? Changing out the brake pads on a 80 series Land Cruiser. ASMR. We'll see. We'll see if we could do it. I'd certainly like to make a fusion of ASMR and instructional video. Oh, okay, look, it's nearly time for me to go back inside, and I've got some guests coming from over east today, so I need to, make the house guest ready. The workshop's always guest ready. Everyone expects a bit of this slight amount of disorder and dirt. So I'll bid you adieu, and please come around next week. Please come around. If it's raining, we'll be in here. If it's good weather, try and find somewhere else. Maybe see how we go. Ciao.